So as you can imagine, after the David Haye last night, a lot of the comments, a lot of the tweets centred around David Haye versus Anthony Joshua, David Haye versus Tyson Fury, and David Haye versus Deontay Wilder. Let's address this in no particular order and start with Deontay Wilder. Whilst David Haye did not prove too much by beating Mark Demore, Mark Demore, top 100 heavyweight at best. In beating him, David Haye has shown that he can defeat top 100 heavyweights. Whilst he didn't prove much in that sense, what he did prove is that he is still a capable fighter. I had severe doubts as to whether a guy in his mid to late 30s, who had been out of the ring for 3.5 years and put on a substantial amount of weights, would still be able to fight to the same level that he did before. And whilst we cannot conclusively say David Haye can fight to the level he did before, we can say David Haye is at least 80% David Haye, with the potential to be more than 80%. And he certainly was saying in his post-fight that he thinks he's going to be better than ever. I guess, of course, he's going to say that. But, he clearly is a threat in the heavyweight division. Now, he showed something really new in the ring last night, and I touched on this in my post-fight video. But he wasn't a frantic fighter. He wasn't coming to put the pedal to the metal from second number one like he did in previous fights. He was more composed. He was playing chess a bit more. He was slowing down the pace, taking a look at his opponent, working the jab, and trying to counterpunch. Now, I've always said David Haye will struggle against tall opponents. For me, when he fights tall opponents like Valiev and Klitschko, he becomes low volume. He becomes defensively minded. He doesn't let the shots flow like he does against guys his own size. Having said that, whilst he still appears to have power and hand speed, one thing that I'm not sure he's going to have is the same legs. I don't think he's going to have the same foot speed. I don't think he's going to have the same athleticism to circle around an opponent like he used to. So I think he is going to have to engage a bit more, and he is going to have to stand in front of opponents slightly more and play chess slightly more. And based on Deontay Wilder's performance last night against Arthur Spilka, I do believe David Haye can get the job done against him. I think the key is putting Deontay Wilder on his back foot. And I think Arthur Spilka showed how to do that perfectly. Deontay Wilder struggled to find his way at range against a sort of guy with head movement who was bobbing and, being elusive. I still think David Haye can do that. And I think with David Haye's power, he can get Deontay Wilder on his back foot. And as I've talked about before several times, Deontay Wilder is not the same fighter on his back foot. His stance is too wide, he loses balance, and he moves straight back with his chin in the air. He also does this new bizarre thing where he lifts his hands up as he moves back. Crazy. But David Haye is the kind of guy who, unlike Arthur Spilka, will capitalise on those gaps. And what he showed last night is he still has game-changing power. Mark Demore probably isn't got the best chin in the heavyweight division. But do you honestly believe that Deontay Wilder has? And for me, David Haye, with that experience of sparring Deontay Wilder, I do think he can put Wilder on his back foot. And I do think Deontay Wilder won't necessarily know what to do when those bombs are flying back at him. And I could see David Haye knocking Deontay Wilder out, actually. I'd make David Haye a favourite in that fight. And I know that's a bold claim, given that he's only beaten Mark Demore. And, Deontay Wilder's an improving guy with a strap. But, with a title belt, But I just think the way Deontay Wilder backs straight up, and with David Haye maybe slowing things down and looking for spots and counter-punching so reactively, I just think Deontay Wilder will not be able to cope with David Haye defensively. And I think whilst Deontay Wilder has a chance in that fight, being the bigger man, having the better jab or the rangier jab, and also having game-changing power of his own, I'd make David Haye a favourite in that fight. I really would. The same's got to be said for Anthony Joshua, actually. Against Anthony Joshua, again, Joshua's another guy, all the momentum in the world, looking really, really good. But he showed a lot of openness in that Dillian White fight. And like Deontay Wilder, he's not a guy who I'm convinced is instinctive when he's being defensive and when bullets are flying his way. You know, we saw him really, really struggle when Dillian Whyte put the pressure on. And I just think David Haye wouldn't find it hard to get inside of Anthony Joshua's jab. I don't think Joshua's jab is consistent enough, and I think it's slightly robotic. I think David Haye could duck underneath it, come inside, you know, hit Anthony Joshua to the body, and I don't think Joshua is defensively tight enough to deal with someone like David Haye. Now, I firmly believe Dillian Whyte should have stopped Anthony Joshua in that second round. The one thing we can say about David Haye is he is a superb finisher. I think if David Haye got Anthony Joshua in the trouble he was in round 2, that'd be game over. And whilst you couldn't rule Joshua out being the bigger man, being a hard puncher, being so much younger, I do just feel that at this present moment, David Haye has the boxing brain and the boxing experience, and he still carries enough power to get the job done against Anthony Joshua. I really do. Joshua's there to be hit. He's stiff, he's robotic, and I think David Haye is a loose fighter, you know, the new David Haye. I know it's only against the Moore, I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but he comes out loose, he comes out composed, you know, he picks his spots. And like I said with Deontay Wilder, at this point, the spots are there to be picked against Anthony Joshua. And I would pick David Haye as a favourite in that fight as well, if he can get it. And I know that's the fight he wants. Now, here's the difference with Tyson Fury. With Wilder, with Anthony Joshua, the spots are there to be picked. And as I say with both of them, neither of them are what I class as instinctive defensive fighters. Neither of them are rolling and weaving and covering up when they're hit. You know, they don't know what to do. They're not instinctive. There's not head movement there. They both back up. You know, their chins are in the air. With Tyson Fury, it's another matter. You know, he's someone who's got his shoulder high and his chin down. He's someone who's leaning with his back against the ropes, parrying shots. He's someone who is an instinctive fighter. He is someone who is highly skilled. And he also brings a huge awkwardness to the fray that I don't think Wilder and Joshua possess. It's funny, because out of the 4 fighters we're talking about, Fury probably is the lightest puncher of all 4 in terms of one-punch knockout power. But what he is awkward and unpredictable. He's the only one who can switch stances. He's got by far the most advanced inside game out of the 4. He is, in my opinion, by far the best defensive fighter out of the 4. I would also suggest he's probably got the best punch variety out of the 4. You know, the way he puts shots together to the body, you know, the way he can throw hooks and uppercuts on the inside. What I'm getting at is Fury may not be the most athletic. Fury may not be the hardest hitting. But to us hardcore fans, the subtleties in his game are more advanced. The different punches he throws, the movement, the awkwardness, the defence. And I think we've seen David Haye in the past become low output and become defensively minded. And we've seen what Tyson Fury did to Vladimir Klitschko. You know, people say Vladimir Klitschko got old, but he still looked like an absolute wrecking ball to me when he fought Kubrat Pulev. You know, and Fury took that away from him. And as I say, I've never been utterly convinced by Haye against the taller guys. And I'm just not sure that Haye is going to be able to pick the spots and counterpunch Fury like he could do against the other guys. I'm just not sure he is. I think Fury is too advanced, too sophisticated, and his boxing brain is simply too elite. So, right now, nailing my colours to the mast, David Haye's back. It's good for boxing. I want to see him in good fights. I think David Haye is a threat to nearly all in the division. Nearly all in the division. He really is. And I think it is sensible that as an older guy with a lot more weight, he's maybe adapting his style. Because as I said in all my pre-fight build-up videos, that style will not work for a heavier man in his 30s, in his mid to late 30s in fact. You know, David Haye's a big guy now. Let's not forget, David Haye weighed in for this fight heavier than George Foreman against Ali. He weighed in heavier than Mike Tyson did at his peak. David Haye's a big guy. He's got experience. He hits hard. He's a threat to all. His upside is still a lot higher than the vast majority of the heavyweight division. Wilder, Joshua, they're both great fights. I don't rule out either of the opponents. They're both good fighters. But I make David Haye a slight favourite in both. As for Tyson Fury, Fury's the favourite in that one for me. He's proven at a much higher level than both Wilder and Joshua. And I think his awkwardness and his instinctive defence is the key to victory over David Haye. Let me know your thoughts. How do you see these four fighters? Which matchup do you want to see the most? If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel. I've been requested to do a heavyweight top 20 ranking, which will be coming soon. And I wouldn't want you to miss that out. Many thanks for watching. Stay tuned.